Have you been itching for a new true crime documentary? Well, Hulu has answered the call with Perfect Wife, the mysterious disappearance of Sherri Papini. It's 3 episodes, and if you are unfamiliar with the case, it might make your head spin a bit. Keith and Sherri Papini's seemingly idyllic life is shattered when Sherri vanishes from their rural California neighborhood, triggering a frenzied search that becomes news around the world. But once Sherri is found, a new nightmare begins. So this did not turn out the way I expected at all. We're told the story of the disappearance of Sherri Papini through interview footage and police interrogations, mainly with her husband Keith. Now, right from the start, he is sketchy, and he's also the prime suspect, like all spouses are when it comes to disappearances. Now, the police investigation feels a little janky and lackluster as they interview and then continue the conversations with Sherri's husband. I could never tell if they were just stringing him along in maybe the hopes that he'd accidentally provide them with some evidence that he was responsible, or if they were just kind of inept and they didn't treat this as a high-priority disappearance. Now, the documentary does a decent job of giving us insight into who Sherri is and a ton of detail into her past relationships and behaviors. I mean, with those relationships, we also learn about trips, living situations, everything that's needed to gain an in-depth picture of Sherri that could inform as to what happened to her. Now, throughout all of this, we also get interviews with Keith, the husband, and these are different from the police footage. Here, we get to watch and hear him recount different moments as things were progressing. Now, there are some surprising twists to the story. Now, at one point, I couldn't help but be reminded of a Netflix documentary that had very similar circumstances, which then had me suspicious of a few different people, but also wary to jump to conclusions because that other case was almost too wild to believe. Now, for me, as more of the story comes to light, it becomes more sickening and disgusting to witness behaviors and mindsets. I mean, we are talking some serious mind effery here, and that's just with the disappearance of Sherri. We then get details on some other occurrences that were going on inside the home, and it might make you just want to reach for your bat. Now, the docuseries, it's 3 episodes with a total runtime close to 3 hours, so it's not a really fast binge. There is some repetitiveness to what we see and we hear about, and not just in the facts being similar, but we're actually shown sequences, shots, and portions of interviews more than once, so it adds unnecessary time and also could make you slightly question your memory. I think there is an opportunity to cut back on all of the information, especially when we're watching police interviews with Keith. The conversations are slow and drawn out, and they can add some dramatic engagement to the case, but I found my mind wandering at parts because the interactions, they just weren't all that enthralling or dynamic. So overall, I think if you're unfamiliar with this case, it's a trip of a missing person story, complete with twists, surprises, and shocking revelations. The interviews give detailed personal accounts and adequately convey the feelings of all involved. But the police interviews and interrogations vary in their intrigue, with some feeling dry and unengaging, even though they continue to provide clues and context to the case. There are opportunities within the storytelling to present a more streamlined documentary, but as it stands, this is a disturbing look into a family dynamic that can make your head spin. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and descriptions of terrible violence. Now, as a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but I do recommend checking out Perfect Wife, the mysterious disappearance of Sherri Papini on Hulu when you have the chance. Alright, so have you seen any true crime stories lately that are worth the watch? Let me know about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.